Welcome to what I think I can say, and I'm not saying this flippantly, Billy Corben, one of the most dangerous because Miamis we have ever done. You have been warning the people for a long time in South Florida, anybody listening to this podcast, that what is happening on Miami Beach, the blighting of Miami Beach, the lack of care on Miami Beach, that the blood would spill closer and closer, and now literally to the Clevelander and to Ocean Drive, as we have state of emergencies in South Florida and as the gunshots get closer, because people have been dying and killed during the day, during the night around here in the Clevelander lobby. And this week we came into work with video that went viral of just us fire hosing in front of a tourist group, blood off the sidewalk because someone had been executed in cold blood in the street. The second time it had happened in multiple nights, and then we do the predictable thing of curfew, state of emergency, and rinse, repeat. We'll do it again next year.
Literally rinse the blood right off the sidewalk here on Ocean Drive. And in the video, there's a big group of people, a line of people. That is the Miami Design Preservation Board walking tour of the entertainment district, of the Art Deco district here on Ocean Drive, and they are waiting while the Miami Beach Fire Department hoses the blood from the sidewalk, where a literal execution took place on Ocean Drive at about 3:30 in the morning, late, Saturday, early Sunday, I should say, morning. And again, it's just all a bit of history repeating. And you and I had this conversation every time there is an obituary section on Ocean Drive, be it a holiday weekend, spring break, summer break, Memorial Day. But what's happening here is they have these emergencies, these so-called emergencies, but all this pearl clutching and all this I'm shocked, but it's the same thing. So this like political theater of just like, we didn't see this coming, we didn't know what to do. The truth is they have the statistics. The police department actually has, they know regionally what percentage of schools are on spring break in a given week. So March 4th to 11th, 20% of schools were on spring break. The 11th to the 18th, which was last weekend, this is the big weekend, week 2 they call it, 41%. So between the overlap of the previous week and then suddenly this rush of 41%, that's the highest density weekend. And then this week now, the 18th through the 18th through the 25th is 23%, and then week 4 is like 9%. So it all just sort of...
Well, but this week we get the added bonus of Ultra, the music festival. So you've got drugs pouring into town.
No.
And overdoses pouring into town, and they're not going to actually curfew. They voted against curfew.
They voted against curfew because it's too late. If they were going to take some kind of measures, they should have done it last weekend. Week 2 is quote unquote the problem weekend. It was the problem weekend last year when I think 5 people were injured by gunfire. It was the problem this past weekend when 2 people were killed and several were injured by gunfire. They know when the problem weekend is. They're just not doing anything about it. I will say what's impressive from the videos of the 2 shootings, that the police presence is like palpable. Their response time is like seconds. It's pretty impressive. In the city of Miami over the bridge, people get shot and the cops don't show up for 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes. In Miami Beach on the holiday weekend, I was impressed with the response time. That said, they're not doing what they need to do to fix the problem.
We'll get to that in a second, but you know that what happens with, again, a publicity that you've predicted, because you've told us for a while that this area is actively being blighted so the real estate can be stolen, so that condos can be built here in the future, because this is very valuable property that people are being executed on.
Yeah, the dream is Sunny Isles. The dream is a condo canyon with multi-million-dollar luxury condos. And the reason for that is what you create here, Dan, is you create this extraordinary tax base, this new tax base. You can only do it in Miami Beach on the Barrier Island by building up, and people won't take homestead exemption because these will be people's second, third, and fourth homes, the people who can afford these, which means that they'll pay full freight. The city will make a ton of revenue, and they'll put these businesses out of business that really help to build beach, the hospitality industry, the entertainment industry, the bar business, the DJs, the nightclubs.
We sound like old people talking about the ruination, but it's literally happening around us with crumbling buildings and people being shot in the street. What I want to ask you is, they are increasing police presence. That's what they always do in these instances. And then you get the state emergencies, and nobody wants to be here because it's so hard. Billy, I'm not kidding you. I live right here. I live in the middle of it. I can now not leave my house on the weekend because I can't get back to my house because of all the barricades and all of the police.
But that's also the price you pay for living in a tourism district and an entertainment district. You do accept that there's going to be certain holiday weekends and times in which you're going to be hunkered down, basically. I don't come to the office during certain weeks and weekends because it's impossible to get on and off the beach. I mean, just getting off the beach is more than half of my commute. Just 30 minutes to escape Miami Beach. And the business owners are pissed because the best thing that the government can come up with is let's punish the business owners. By the way, the business owners, there's nobody getting shot inside these businesses. These businesses are relatively secure. People are getting shot and killed outside on the street where the government is supposed to be doing their part to keep people protected. And there was a clip, some very angry people. So they had an emergency, another one of these for the third or fourth year in a row, another one of these emergency Miami Beach commission meetings where they did not allow public comment. So people weren't business owners and residents, and nobody was allowed to speak. So they started to yell.
Between the private and the public sector today, that's been one of your problems. The police did a good job. The businesses did a good job. They're all innocent. Why don't you hear some of the...
I don't want to have you removed. You got to stop.
You don't have communication with the private sector, Mayor, and that's happening today.
You got to sit down.
You're a ship without a route.
All right, let's continue.
Ship without a rudder, I think, or ship without a route, he's saying. And he's wrong. They're totally listless. They don't know what to do. Mayor Magoo doesn't know what to do. And they panic, let's be honest, when they see a certain amount of density and high concentration of tourists of a particular pigmentation. That's the reality. And they only target those weekends, which is interesting because now the Winter Music Conference, what do they call, Ultra's happening, and they're basically saying like, well, we don't need these kinds of precautions during Ultra because it's a different crowd, it's a different weekend. Not to mention that the density is much lower. It's, there's half as many schools on break than were on break last weekend. So people complaining that it's not spring break. It's not all spring breakers. In fact, a lot of the so-called outside agitators are really local because you don't get off a plane and have a gun, Dan. People are driving here from Fort Lauderdale with guns. People are coming from the mainland with guns and acting a fool and murdering people here in South Beach.
Well, now commissioners are talking about searching all the cars and metal detectors. So let's get to some of the worst ideas because it is the same thing every year. And it's been, it's many years now, Billy.
They're treating symptoms. These are Band-Aids on a cancer. No one is taking the initiative to really do what we've been talking about for years on this show and for me for 10 years with this community and its politicians, which is to do something for real and long term. But they came up with 5 pretty shitty ideas, Dan.
All right, let's do these in reverse order. Number 5, the 5th worst idea on how to correct these spring break all of this spring break malfeasance.
The city has spent millions of tax dollars counter-programming for white people. So basically, they're hiring acts and artists and doing these sporting events on the sand and things to try to, quote-unquote, attract a different audience.
This I enjoyed. The music was plentiful all weekend long. It was great music. It was free music. Volleyball nearby.
Yes, it was like Top Gun, but more gay. Number 4, the curfew and shutting down liquor stores at 6 p.m. It may make their jobs temporarily easier, but it doesn't come close to solving the problem, and it ultimately scapegoats private sector businesses who are the lifeblood of this community, who provide service jobs, industry jobs, to thousands of workers who feed the tax base here in Miami Beach, which keeps your taxes low because you get so much money from the outsiders coming in. And there's no doubt that this is challenging to police because you have a city with about 100,000 full-time residents. But then on any given week, suddenly you have 200,000-300,000 people alone just in this 15 blocks. So it gets intense, but the curfew doesn't help. And what good does it do to shut down
I feel like we need to shorten these up.
What good does it do to shut down a liquor store on Alton Road? What good does it do?
I'm just saying with the fanfare, if we're going to do it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
I'll make it
there's
quick.
only so much fire hose Corben we can handle
All right.
here. You don't have to make it
Numero
quick.
tres.
You've got a lot of information, but
Numero
we've got a
tres.
lot of show to get to as well. Number 3.
They suggested that this weekend you need an ultra ticket in order to get to Ocean Drive. I don't even know I think the cheapest ultra ticket's like $600. I don't even know how to start with how stupid of an idea that is. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
Number 2.
Metal detectors on Ocean Drive everywhere.
That's amazing.
Like, what do they... Jesus, I don't know how they intend to do that, but you've got Stephen Miner, this Putz. This commissioner is such a reactionary Putz, this guy. He doesn't have any ideas. He just kvetches and kvetches and kvetches. Listen to this Putz.
I gotta tell you, I'm a little frustrated what I'm hearing, because I keep hearing, and we've had the same conversation last year. Not to take away, I know you made the best efforts, but I don't view any other option at this point than doing metal detectors. There's literally zero option. I'm telling you right now, I am going to fight for that to the core, because I am not going to go through next year and have dead people in our streets. I'm just not going to do it.
Zero options, Dan. Such a Putz.
Putz is a great insult. It's still a great insult.
You should see every time he opens his mouth, I cringe. I know
holds-
it's going to...
I don't know why. I don't even know what a putz actually is. Putz is an excellent insult. Just, it's a word. I don't want it on me.
Has nothing to do with golf, right? Nothing to do with golf.
No.
No, I don't know. It's a putz. There's a Z. I don't know what an actual putz is other than that guy who was just talking.
But he
if you
sounds
tell
like
me
a putz, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. It's a great insult. Number 1.
Number 1, shutting down the causeways to Miami Beach.
Yeah.
Just strangle
Yeah.
strangle the beach.
All right, you've had good ideas, though. You've told these people how to police this area for a long time, but let's get to some serious solutions instead of always just being the critic. Do you have actually 5 good ideas for what they can actually do, things that can actually be implemented, even though they won't be in the next couple of weeks, can't be this quickly?
Yeah, and it's not a top 5, but it's a 5-step process. So we'll go from 1 to 5. Number 1. Permanently close Ocean Drive to vehicular traffic. Number 2, don't do it the way they do it now, like temporarily, throwing up barricades, making it look like a green zone in Iraq. Because people react that way. It looks all very ad hoc and very sloppy and shitty. And so people think this is all just like, it looks like a mess, so people, it begets a mess and a messy scene. So you need to actually redevelop Ocean Drive and make it one with Lummis Park. Make it a real beautiful promenade and extension of the park like Lincoln Road and like Lummis Park.
You understand the music of this, right, Billy?
I get it. I'm trying to save Miami Beach, Dan.
I understand.
I'm trying to save Miami Beach.
Okay,
it's not just a shtick,
My hero.
Dan.
Let's save
it's
it.
Not just shtick.
But let's save it.
I'm trying to get you and Val to have some sleep at night, okay?
Let's save it. However, let's do it with a quick, pithy sentence on the front that can get some fanfare, and then you can bloviate.
Number 3. Cameras everywhere. On the new Ocean Drive with trained law enforcement professionals surveying the crowd during those high-density weekends to flag problems before they become problems, to start to intervene, to get law enforcement where they need to be, maybe before they need to be
But Billy,
there.
I gotta tell you that there were no shortage of cameras, and in fact, you made me uncomfortable with the things that you were posting because it's so graphic to see to see an execution.
These are cell phone cameras. I'm talking about law enforcement setting out, because this is a public thoroughfare, public park. There's no privacy issues with this. That's part of the problem, is like some of these various ideas they have are just unconstitutional. At their own emergency meeting, their own city attorney said, we can't do a bunch of this stuff because it's just illegal. This would be totally, totally legal, which leads us to number 4.
Number 2.
Well, I'm going too, yeah, we're going too far. Yeah, I'm going.
Well, but I mean,
in
just
that
respect the process.
No, but this isn't a top 5. It's
It
a
is a top
5-step.
5. No, but
it's
it
a
is a top
5-step.
5. He did the fanfare.
Trying to save Miami Beach.
You got to
man.
do
Trying
it.
to-
Yeah, I
either
understand.
way, it's
It's
gonna
a-
be fan.
I'm trying to entertain the people while you
Trying to
save
save
my
Miami.
Trying
to save the
do
whole
it
city.
musically.
The whole
Yes.
damn city.
Yeah, I understand. You're a real hero. You should do this. You should do the show on a stallion, on a white stallion.
Trying to save the city. Dan.
Number 2.
Number 4. It is a complete retraining, redesign, and reimagining of the policing program in the entertainment district. I am suggesting more police, but I'm suggesting better paid police, but I'm also suggesting retrained police. Dealing with hospitality training, dealing with identifying threats better, different uniforms, like integrating the police as part of the tourism scene. Think Times Square, New York, a Miami Beach police substation, all Miami viced out, glass brick, neon, make it Instagrammable just like NYPD in Times Square. Make the police a part of the experience and a part of the tourism experience, so you just see them everywhere and you think twice before, I don't know, you pull out a gun and execute somebody on Ocean Drive.
Number one.
Finally, then, obviously, all of this has to be done in coordination, as you heard the man screaming at the meeting, with the private sector and with the businesses, the responsible business owners in the entertainment district. Now we can talk about counter-programming, Dan. Counter-programming is number 5. They're doing it all backwards. They're trying to counter-program for a crowd that's not here. They have to first... They need transformation, not militarization. They need a long-term strategy. It's not going to make everybody happy this weekend. But again, Band-Aids on a cancer has not helped Miami Beach.
My favorite form of the counter-programming, though, when it was just air and sea show. When the military presence was so strong that it was just fighter planes over Ocean Drive.
Well, they're doing that again every Memorial Day weekend.
Yes,
you'll have it back.
I know. I'm well aware. Yes, that's what the neighborhood has become. Fighter planes as counter-programming to assassinations. Sure, that's what I live in the middle of. We have a 1-800 number that we are giving the audience right now. It's a voicemail complaint line. Basically, it's so that you can flame me and Billy with whatever it is you got. I don't even want to sell it another way. Say what you got. Many of you hate me. Many of you hate him. We want to hear from you. We want to put your voices on the air. We want to encourage all of this.
Also general complaints about Miami.
Yeah, whatever. 786-505-9842. 786-505-9842. It's a dumpster. It's a grounds for people to call, people to use the phone in an old-fashioned way. Call and leave a message.
It's a dumpster. Think of it as Ocean Drive. Just shit all over there, piss all over there.
786-505-9842. A Miami 1-800 number that's not a 1-800 number. Voicemail complaint line.
It's not toll-free,
It's not toll-free.
All regular rates apply on your cell phone.
Not 1-800. Appreciate the producers doing the important work of reminding me that Putz is Yiddish for penis. On to other important matters.
He looks like a putz, too. He doesn't just sound like a putz.
Speaking of putzes, many of them are in session right now, and I want you to explain to the audience before we unveil the entirety of this segment why women's bodies are now again at risk in a way that's public and kind of unfathomable in 2023.
Speaking of putzes, in the Florida legislature, for the video, we got to show a shot of the Florida Capitol, looking up by like Tennessee, looking up at the Capitol. It is shaped like a cock and balls. The building is this tall building, and then on either side of the two domes of the House, the State House and the State Senate, so it looks like a cock and balls.
Thank you, Billy.
Looking up the street there.
Also, I asked you about
it's a cock and balls filled with putzes.
Okay.
Filled with putzes.
Thank you. And putzes who are dominating the woman's body.
It's like a penis inception, Dan. Like penises inside of penises.
With men making powerful decisions on behalf of women that are
well, Dan, who better
invasive.
Who better to make decisions about women, their bodies, and what they can learn than a bunch of old white men? Dan.
DeSantistan was supposed to be how you introduced this segment.
Bienvenidos a DeSantistan.
The free state of Florida, most free of any land. A proud phallic peninsula, our home DeSantistan.
What do tampons, pregnancy tests, and crusty old white guys have in common? I wish it were nothing, but this is Florida. Our fearless leaders had the wisdom to propose banning abortions so early that by the time any of us realizes that we missed our period, it will be too late to do anything about it. It's so extreme. It's as if these men have no idea how our bodies work. Speaking of periods, those word-banning morons were trying to ban talking about periods in schools. That's right, our menstrual cycles. You know, during the time in our lives when little girls first get their period. I can't even imagine being a girl right now, hearing adults argue about whether or not I'm allowed to talk about a normal bodily function. Again, absolutely clueless about how our bodies work. Either that, or maybe the female genitalia are just that scary and they've got to make laws about it every chance they get. Sounds like a lot of people that rarely get a chance to even be near a woman, and it shows. Now I'm actually waiting to see if they're going to have like a don't say poop bill, don't say balls. Now that's going to create some serious confusion. Thankfully, after so many people have spoken out about how stupid the don't say period bill is, these crusty old white guys have actually amended the bill. Goes to show you that fighting back actually matters. But in Florida, we really can't let up because they're canceling anything and everything just because somebody wants to run for president.
The disenfranchised and the woke cry when their books are banned. A Christo-fascist paradise here in DeSantistan.
Do you think you should tell the folks why I'm here with no sleeves? I feel like
no. Okay. I feel like we should not explain that at all.
All right, no, I'm going to have to help him.
I feel like
out.
none of us should have sleeves.
We should change our shirts. I want him maximum comfortable.
Do you want to wear a Joe Correa wife beater, Dan, for this segment?
Thank you.
I have him in the car.
Hit the button.
Thank you. I don't want to start that way.
All right.
All right. We will start that way then. Yul Vasquez is with us, and you may do this with Yul, a sprawling acting career, but you may do I know that guy from. It's Petey on Severance, it's John on Russian Doll, it's Bob on Seinfeld, it's Ruben the Cuban on The Sopranos, it's Bad Boys 2. What are you laughing about there?
Ruben the Cuban.
Ruben the Cuban on The Sopranos.
Jose Battle in Godfather of Harlem.
currently on the air.
Yeah.
And White House Plumbers. HBO does all the good stuff, and he's going to be a Watergate burglar here shortly. I'm sure it will be excellent. Because he's excellent and HBO's stuff is excellent. He wants me to apologize on behalf of, I don't know, ARMS or his Cuban people. He doesn't want to be dressed this way. He's feeling a little insecure because he just came from the gym.
This is Ocean Drive, Dan. Everybody's got their guns out on spring break.
Yul, I don't know why you would be ashamed of that. You are on the beach. You grew up here. This is how you would dress when you are in Miami coming home.
Yes, waiting for that. Sorry, that was for my guns line. That's
amazing. I think it's a testament to you guys' power that I literally would not even go home and change. I came straight here. I didn't want to disappoint anyone.
Well, thank you for being here. And
sorry, speaking of your wardrobe, is that a Martha of Miami hat that you're wearing?
By the way, this is a Martha of Miami hat. Thank you for pointing that out. I love Martha of Miami. I don't know her. I bought the hat, but I love what she's doing, and it's a great. The whole thing is great.
One of my favorite gifts for out of towners, like Miami, souvenirs. She has these adorable little keychains that are cafecito cups, just like the little baby like cafecito cups with coffee kind of like plastered in there. It's adorable. I love that place on Bird Road.
I think I love the candles are great. The whole thing is fantastic.
You are Miami Cubano. Like you go back all the way to when this place was what?
Was nothing. Nobody would come here. In fact, most of my friends lived in Miami, and I would say, "Hey, you guys want to come over?" They'd be like, "No, you come to us." Nobody wanted. You couldn't give this away, man. You honestly couldn't give. They called it God's waiting room. It was all viejitos, little old folks on these hotels, just literally like retirement homes, and it was desolate and depressed.
And you hung out here at the Clevelander as a kid.
It was my favorite pool. Yeah, the Clevelander was my favorite pool. Like I was telling you guys, because it had a ledge, and I knew I could. I could sit on the ledge and I wouldn't drown.
So like pre-wet T-shirt contest days.
Your family had no money, I would guess. If this place was broke, like the idea that all this land would be valuable now. When you were coming here, it's because what your family could afford. This was luxury for a newly arrived or fairly newly arrived Cuban family.
We lived at the ocean. The the Oceanfront Motel, which is the building is still there, but it's not called that anymore. I don't know what it's called now, but that's where we lived, in a tiny one room with my mother and my sister and my grandmother. And then we wound up moving to 15th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue to another studio, but better. Again, I would sleep, so I'd share a bed with my grandmother, and my sister had her own bed, and my mother slept on a couch. You know what I mean? And that's how we did it. You know, I mean, it would like literally. You know, my mother came to this country, 2 kids, didn't speak English, single mother.
It's crazy to think that your career, that the arts, that from something that wasn't free, that you would then be able to make an entire career in the arts with that freedom from there.
That's. I thought I was thinking about that the other day, to be quite honest with you, because when I think about where I came from, you know, because we all have moments when we're like up, down, whatever. You know, I mean, I was thinking where I came from. The fact that I'm still here and going, the fact that I've been earning a living as an actor for 30 years is already a jackpot. So, yeah, I mean, my mother sacrificed everything. My mother worked at Publix. I in turn worked at Publix. My aunt worked at Publix.
I did that stuff too. The bag boy at Publix. That was the proudest job a young Cuban boy could have.
You know, I took it, man. I was like, because I was playing in a band, and I just I had a job, and I could buy like guitar strings, and I was playing in a band. I rehearsed in a house on Alton Road.
A hair band.
That came.
Your hair, tremendous hair.
Tremendous hair. Yeah, no, it's still. I still have hair. It's not.
No, but you were a rock star. You were a
yeah.
Cuban, a Lothario. You were a Cuban man with a lot of hair trying to make his way into the music industry.
It is. Yes, I was. You know who if you can have him on the show, you should have him. A guy called Rudy Zarzo. You know who that is?
I do not.
He's a bass player. He's Cuban. Came from Cuba when he was 12, and he wound up playing with Ozzy and Whitesnake. I mean, is a Cuban.
Could have been you.
Could have been me, but he's he came from Cuba. I think he was older, and he had his brother, and they were rockers. I mean, and they went. I mean, he took it as far. He's still playing. I mean, but he's an amazing guy to talk to about a guy. You know, because when I was a kid, when I was a kid and I wanted to play heavy music, there was no Cubans playing heavy music. You know, I was like, well, you know, all my heroes were British guitar players. The last thing that I thought that I wanted to be was Cuban. I wanted to be like Jimmy Page. I mean, I wanted to be a Brit. It's crazy because I think everything I loved.
And was music your entree into film? Because Mambo Kings was your first film, right?
Mambo Kings is my first film. When I was a kid, I acted because my mother was an actress, but I didn't want to be an actor. I wanted to be fucking Jimmy. Oh,
rock star.
Can I curse on
Yeah,
you?
Fuck
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to be Jimmy Page.
Thank
man.
you. He's 4 years old.
Yeah,
I want to
thanks.
apologize
Thanks a
on behalf. Yes, you can curse all you want. I don't. I give him less permission to curse.
No, man. I acted as a kid, but I didn't. And then that came sort of later. You know, after I was in a band in New York that we'd gotten dropped from a label, and then. You know, never a good feeling. And then acting came back in through a woman called Holly Lebed, who was an agent in New York who said, hey, Oliver Stone is casting this film about the Doors and they're looking for band dudes, you know, and I had crazy long hair, as you know, and as you mentioned. And so I went on this audition, you know, and I met this casting director called Billy Hopkins. So I was not cast in that movie. Then I started taking an acting class, and then he brought me back for this movie, The Mambo Kings, and I started reading for that film.
Do you have any good Oliver Stone batshit crazy stories?
I have an amazing two Oliver Stone stories. I read for him for the JFK movie, and I remember it was in the basement of Lincoln Center in New York, and I came in, and he was sitting behind a desk piled up with stuff, and he had these dark glasses, and the casting director, Billy Hopkins, was in a corner, and Billy Hopkins says, "Oh, this is Yul, and Yul is Cuban." He goes, "Yeah, you Cuban?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "You know about the Bay of Pigs invasion?" I go, "Yes, of course." I said, "My uncle Raymond was in the Bay of Pigs invasion." He goes, "Which side?" And I literally said, "Side that fucking lost." I was fucking stunned, you know. I mean, like, I was stunned, but I was like, "No, you ain't getting away with that, yo.
Hey.
No, I'm not doing that with you."
Hey.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's amazing question.
And you have another one?
Then I do. Then years later, I was reading for him for another film, and I'm reading, and all of a sudden the doors explode open, and the little kid with a giant dog come running in the room. It was his son. He's like, "Dad," screaming about something, and I was like, in the middle of reading, and he goes, "You can't come in here now. You have to I'm in the middle of a thing." You mean I was like, I'm holding the fucking sides in my hand. I'm like, literally, I'm just trying to get a job. You know what I mean? Dude, I had $12 in the bank. I was like, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Is this even happening to me? I can't even. This is crazy. Yeah.
Be remiss not to leapfrog to Seinfeld, or flash forward, if you will, to Seinfeld,
Sure.
because everybody. I mean,
Well, what do you get asked most
streets,
about?
I
What
think.
is the role you're most associated with?
People recognize me a lot from Seinfeld, and that was, you have to understand, it's 1995 I did the first one. So that's kind of bananas. I mean, but that's the power of that show, the power of the reach of that show. Yeah, people love that show. It's still on, and then lately, Severance, Petey, Severance, and Bad Boys 2.
On Apple.
People,
Yeah.
But
Bad Boys 2 is on all the time also.
What an amazing thing to watch television change that way, though, right? Because Severance, Ben Stiller, I've always admired his work and his choices and how exacting and crazy he seems about trying to do the next best thing. Severance is ambitious.
Huge.
And it was cool to have that, the guy who topped out once at Tropic Thunder showing that kind of range on something.
He's insanely talented, and then he's an incredible director. I don't know if you saw Escape at Dannemora.
Yeah, it's great on Showtime.
Incredible.
It felt like he was one of the first to discover that, I can do some playthings in this streaming world that'll be interesting to people. That doesn't have to be a film that's an hour and 50 minutes that might bring actors over because they want to do a 10-hour movie.
Correct. That's exactly right. And he has, he'll take a risk. You know what I mean? And Severance was this insanely ambitious thing, which we shot in the height of the pandemic, literally September of 2020. So
it's my obligation to bring it back to Seinfeld, because
go ahead. Yeah, let's go back to Seinfeld.
You leapt right ahead, 2022
I'm
already,
just
and
sorry,
I'm like in 90.
because it's an artful choice, and he's mentioning Seinfeld was in 1995.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah.
But they could have auditioned 1,000 actors for the role of Bob.
Correct.
None of them would have done with it what you did with it. So who did you channel? What was the inspiration for that?
Well,
character?
So I was in LA, and the woman I mentioned earlier, Holly Levitt, who got me the audition for the Oliver Stone movie, says there's a last minute audition at CBS Radford. It's for Seinfeld, and I had never actually at that point watched the show. So I go there, and it's one of those things. It happens in LA a lot. It's last minute, and you literally get the pages, you read it right there, you go in and read. And so I got it, and I went, it's called Bob the Intimidating Gay Guy. That's literally what it's called.
On the script.
Yeah. And so I get the pages.
It's funny just by itself.
Exactly. It's insane. But I go, what am I going to do with this? And I thought, well, the most intimidating human I knew at that point was my mother, who was a very intense Cuban lady. So I literally go in the room, and it's basically an impersonation of my mother. And I go, remember, Jerry and Larry are sitting there because this thing started working the next fucking day.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
that's how they do that, right?
Yeah, because Spike Feresten, who wrote that episode, was knew the Soup Nazi, so he wrote the Soup Nazi episode because he worked at SNL, and they would get soup from the Soup Nazi. And I lived by the Soup Nazi. It's a real guy. It's a real thing. That guy. Although he got really angry with them. For calling him that. You can see why.
I can't see why. I don't understand. Why would he be mad about that?
But the guy's really intense, though. The thing is all real. So I go in, I do this thing, and they look at me and they go, "What was that?" And I go, "Well, it's an impersonation of my mom kind of thing." They're like, "Do it again." So I did it again. And they're like, "Wait outside." So, you do the thing, actors would go in and out, and they would say, "Okay, you two guys can leave, you three guys stay," which is not awkward at all. I mean, so
It's a beauty pageant or something.
it's
Yeah,
hard.
it's like
It's
And it's
hard.
nerve-wracking.
You have to smile as you-
And it's also very vulnerable. Now, the three of you, do your best work right now for a job. Compete,
for tomorrow.
Bore on the floor. Everybody
Oh.
competing. Gross vulnerabilities at
so
stake.
vulnerable, man.
Yes.
So vulnerable, and everybody there wants it. They want a gig because they need a job. So I wind up getting it. I go back in again, and they wind up hiring me. You know what I mean? And then
Because
I
you
go,
channeled your mom and were an intimidating gay guy as your mom. As your old Cuban mom who was Cuban cliche chancleta as punishment? Or-
chancleta or anything that was close, even some things that were larger than chancletas would fly across the room.
She
You know
would
what I mean?
throw flip-flops. What other large things would get thrown in the name of discipline?
Anything that was around. I remember one day I had a BB gun and I was being like a wise ass with it, and my grandma took it from me and shot me in the ass with it, which was
Abuela, good work, good work. That's abuela discipline right there.
That's Cuban discipline, man. Listen, but that's so. I just want to tell a Seinfeld story, which I think was one of the coolest things for me. Was the guy who plays my boyfriend is John Paragon. Now, do you guys know who John Paragon is?
from Pee Wee's Playhouse.
He was John B. the Genie.
Mecca Lecca High, Mecca Heiny Ho.
Exactly right. So when I got the job and I realized who he was, I was almost more excited about that than doing Seinfeld.
That's where you're.
I had no idea that show changed my trajectory, like radically.
There's a good connection. That's a good. Your 6 degrees of separation from Pee Wee Herman is
Well,
two,
let's do this.
is two steps away.
Before we get to
Holy
White House Plumbers, what he's doing with HBO, Billy, so that people understand how sprawling this man's career is, you want to play a game.
It's ridiculous.
Of 6 degrees of separation. There's no one that you'll be able to mention that he won't be just a degree or two removed from, having worked from.
6 degrees of Yul Vasquez, I think, is bullshit. I think it's much closer to like 2 or 3 or max 4 degrees, I would have to think.
You might stump me. Let's see.
Let's try. Okay. Madonna.
My wife is in a movie with Madonna
Get out of here.
called my God, a John Schlesinger movie.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
I was thinking to Tom Hanks in Field of Dreams.
A League of Their Own.
Who you
That's
were-
a
League
crime.
of Their Own. A League of Their Own.
League of Their Own. Tom Hanks and A League of Their Own, and you worked with Tom Hanks.
I did Tom Hanks.
So
No.
wait, but it gets even
Too
it's-
closer. My wife became friendly with her. Yeah, my wife.
Get
There's
outta
a
here.
movie. It's a John Schlesinger movie. It's Rupert Everett and Madonna. It's
Oh
cool.
yeah, I remember that
Right.
movie. Yeah,
My wife is in that.
Okay, Michael B. Jordan.
Michael, I'm friends with Andy Garcia, who has Lakers tickets.
You sound you sound nervous. You sound like you're worried. You sound like you wish to
Oh, no,
impress
you're talking
us.
about. I thought you meant you're talking about the actor.
No, I mean the actor Michael
actor.
B. Creed. Creed himself, Michael B. Jordan.
He might not know who Michael B. Jordan is. That's possible, is it
I
not?
know who Michael B. Jordan
knows,
is.
yes.
I think I don't.
Who was on Friday Night Lights with Kyle Chandler.
Oh, and I did. That's right.
Bloodline.
I did Bloodline with Kyle Chandler. Okay,
You're
thank you.
leading him to his
I'm
answers
trying.
there. He doesn't need. You're
thank you.
taking
Hang
him. You know that he's connected to everybody. Why don't you
Lady-
just play the
Lady-
game
Lady
instead
Gaga.
of him and just tell us how he's associated to everybody
Lady
in Hollywood?
Gaga.
How am I? Please tell me. How,
Bradley
Oh,
Cooper.
Bradley Cooper. Yeah. Bradley,
18.
18. That's
18,
right.
yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Bradley Cooper.
All right. Marlon Brando.
Well, I work with Johnny Depp.
Oh shit.
I work with Johnny Depp, and I've known
In
Johnny
music
for a long
or in
time.
movies?
I know Johnny from here.
In the bands, probably,
Yeah.
right?
Well, Johnny's first wife was my ex-girlfriend.
What?
Yeah, so Lori Allison, who lived on Alton Road, became Lori Depp. That's his first wife. That, not one of the celebrity wives, but yeah. Johnny's
of
a
course,
great guy. I've known and
to Marlon Brando.
But how do I connect?
We went Marlon Brando to The Score with Robert De Niro,
right
to Casino with Sharon Stone, to Basic Instinct with Michael Douglas, to Traffic.
Correct. Except I just worked with De Niro in Greece.
Oh shit! So so
that movie's coming
we just-
out next year. It's called Tin Soldier. So
my last one,
okay,
Princess Jasmine.
that's my wife. That's Princess Jasmine is my wife.
Yes.
I'm married
Yul
to
is-
a Disney princess.
Yul is married to.
I'm married to a Disney legend. You can't even make that shit up. Man.
Billy,
What a life!
Shit.
What a life!
We have-
from the Clevelander pool.
From the Clevelander pool.
It's a whole new world.
we have failed to publicize what it is that he is joining us for. White House
Yes,
Plumbers.
his grandma shot him in his Mecca Lecca Heiny Ho. Also, up. All right.
Undeserved, wildly undeserved. White House Plumbers on HBO. I guess we're not going to talk to him about it.
I also love that like you have played like Jose Battle
Yeah.
and now White House Plumber. You played these sort of like legendary real life like Cuban
Bernard
character.
Barker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's so cool.
No,
And-
it's been. Listen, if I died tomorrow, it was a good run. And now after having done this, I've written the icing on the cake, baby.
Can we talk about the face merkins in White House Plumbers? Or those aren't real mustaches, right? Those are face merkins.
Thoreau's mustache is real.
No.
Yeah, that's real.
He's Liddy, right?
Yeah, he plays Liddy.
He's
That's
got
real.
the craziest of them all.
Yeah.
That's like some tombstone shit.
That's
like
unbelievable. But the craziest transformation is mine.
Yeah, you look.
That's
you look
completely insane.
You're like in the first shot, and the camera's kind of like dollying down. It's a great. I've just started to watch the first episode, and it reminds me a lot of. We did a doc called 537 Votes about the 2000 presidential election, and we did it like a political heist. And this plays like a heist movie. Like the score is all kind of. It's a little jazzy and cool, and I didn't recognize you. The camera passes right by you. I said, "Oh, I had to rewind it." I was like, "Oh
mustache
shit,
was
is
that
that you?" Well, the
glorious.
glasses and the hair. And,
Oh yeah, but that's a disguise from what I look like in the film. I have a bald cap and a comb over.
Get out of here.
Oh no, dude! Wait till you see this.
I'm getting into it now.
It's Bernard Barker, Cuban Jew. Nobody realizes he did time in a Nazi war camp.
No shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I told David Mandel, I said, he's seen worse shit than you could fucking do to this guy, that any American court could do to this guy. Like that guy was iron. You know, amazing story of that guy. Anyways, I've gone off track. I'll never be asked back.
You're fine. Thank you. No, we've enjoyed your company. We got more of the arms than we deserved. Thank you for being on with us. We appreciate you coming through.
You guys, honestly, this is awesome, man. I'm a huge fan of you guys, the show, everything. I love what you guys are doing. I love the shit Billy's making. I love what you're doing for Miami. Keep going, man, and thank you.
Thank you, buddy. As many of you know, Billy is a loser. Always loses.
Damn.
Tries very hard to win. Is a strong believer in noble things and always loses to corruption. But occasionally we have good news. He has promised us good news. We haven't had time to get to good news because there's so much bad news, but we're going to do it this week. You say you have 3 bits of good news, victories for #BecauseMiami, a Billy Corben enterprise that rarely gets victories.
Yes, a rare Because Miami win. We've covered it multiple times on this program before. We've had some guests about it. The Circle of Brotherhood is a fabulous organization that does major violence prevention and wellness work in the city of Miami, particularly in the black communities of the city of Miami. And they were promised, you'll recall, back in October of 21, Francis Suarez, Mayor Ponzi Postalita.
Hold on a second.
Presented them with a $1 million oversized check in the ultimate Ponzi Postalita moment, and then they didn't get the money. But you might remember this very impassioned, not even a plea, it was really a go fuck yourself from one of their head organizers, Leroy Jones, at a city commission meeting.
Now, the mayor of Miami called us here, said that he was awarding the Circle of Brotherhood some funding because of the work that we've been doing in the community. When we got here, he unveiled a check for $1 million. It was all on his social media. It was all in the newspaper. In fact, even to this day, people still think we got this money. They think we got the money. Now we get an email from the budget office saying it's $250,000. You know, one time a commissioner called me ungrateful because I had the audacity to ask for a little more money. I was ungrateful because I wanted a little more money to serve my community. I was ungrateful. So maybe you might call me ungrateful again today. The mayor promised us $1 million. We want $1 million. We're not taking $250,000. So if $250,000 is on the agenda for us to take it, we don't want it. We are not going to take less than what we are worth anymore in the black community. We're not taking 200. The budget department sent me an email saying it's not $1 million anymore. It's $250,000. We don't want the $250,000. We're not trading anything for $250,000. We're not trading who we are, the brotherhood. You know what? We ain't bowing down.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Dan, they held out, and 15 months later, they finally got their $1 million. They didn't settle for $25,000 or $250,000 or $500,000.
Nice.
They got every penny that they were promised by the racists in the city of Miami.
A noble fight. Congratulations to all involved. The second bit of good news.
Well, Dan, I've got good news and kind of bad news about Miami Coin. The good news is the price has finally stabilized at 0.00035, about 99.4% down from its all-time high. So that would mean if you invested $100 in Miami Coin in September of 21, you now have about $0.50 of your money left.
A ripoff, like you said from the beginning, near the coin.
And so the bad news, though, is that the reason the price is finally stabilized is because it was delisted from the only centralized cryptocurrency trading platform in which it was listed, and that is OKCoin. And so we now have a funeral, if you will. We're going to sit Shiva for Miami Coin, followed by a brief eulogy from me.
It's called Miami Coin. The city of Miami, through Miami Coin, could generate enough taxes so that our residents don't have to pay 1 cent in tax.
That's incredible.
And the revenue that we generate from the staking, the winnings, if you will, we're going to give it as a dividend to all of our residents in Bitcoin.
A year ago, Miami Coin was worth 5 cents per coin. Now Miami Coin is basically worth nothing.
The crypto exchange OKCoin has suspended trading in your city's Miami Coin. Now, what happens now?
It's unfortunate that the coin didn't survive, but it's not unexpected. What has suffered is the people who invested in it.
Grand opening, grand closing.
How is that good news? How is it good news? How did you contrive a scenario in your head that makes it? Is it just because you're right?
I think my eulogy will answer your question, Dan.
$5.
I told you so.
Really?
That's it. That's my eulogy.
Wait a minute. Okay, yes, that is.
I can't drop the mic because it's on a mic stand. Can I take this mic off? Can I drop this mic?
No, okay.
How do I get this mic off here?
All right, congratulations. A rare victory for Billy Corben, and now a third rare victory for Billy Corben. What is the third one?
It's not a victory for
and
me.
And only your victories involve eulogies, by the way. It's not. That's how dark it is around here.
Listen, for my people, death it's a celebration of life. You know, that's what a Shiva is. It's a celebration of life. You know, it's not sad that they're gone. We're happy that it was here at all.
What is our third bit of good news?
So there is a
I'm so tired of you.
There is a crypto entrepreneur by the name of Ryan Crawford, also known as Brody. He called himself a whiz kid. He developed a coin called Cheetah Coin. Cheetah as in the animal, not like Tom Brady. And you're not going to believe it, Dan, but it crashed, and he made off allegedly with nearly $1 million in cash and coin from his investors. Some of his investors say this was a scam from the jump. He has now been indicted on multiple counts of wire fraud. This was a scheme that he ran entirely out of Miami. He was arrested on the road in Colorado and is now being extradited back, and his investors are very, very happy about that. And here, for our Miami moment, is some collection of video of Ryan Brody Crawford. First, when he was at peak hubris, all the way down to him regretfully admitting that he lost everybody's money.
We're about to take over the world. Yeah, y'all have no idea what's about to happen. Cheetah Swap is about to blow the up. So I just move my stop ups to guarantee profits every single time, no matter what happens. I don't lose much, but when I do, it's in really situations with you guys, And I'm sorry, like, I actually am really sorry.
The apocalypse is upon us. Billy, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye to the people. Cocaines.